Welcome to the Access to Success podcast, the Project Shine series. I'm your host, Saeed Al-Basha, and with me is author and coach Mike Diamond. This is episode number 7 of the series, and today we're going to be discussing something that I think we can all benefit from. We may not realize the power of our past experiences and how they can hold us back if we associate them with our present state. And what I mean by that is basically taking your previous experiences and making your decisions now based on what happened to you before. Like, do you recall something that happened to you years and years ago? Something that may trigger a fear or like a hesitation when making a decision, or some sort of behavior that now is actually a part of your personality. It's something that becomes a part of you and who you are. Well, after this episode, I'm going to actually tell you guys a story about myself and something that happened to me that was a bit traumatic, and I carried it with me into my adult years. It's something that I've worked through and I've worked on over the years, and I've really now have a good grasp on, but it actually steered my ship, that is my life, into a certain direction. So I don't know how I would be today if it wasn't for that experience or those experiences. So stick around for that. But for you guys today, we're going to go into how to string together a positive and empowering thought process so that you can dominate whatever it is that you're trying to overcome. And we're also going to go into how to disassociate with your past experiences. This is something really important because sometimes we don't even know that those past experiences are still affecting us today. And we're also going to go into how to take back control of your thoughts so that you're not governed by your past experiences. So it's a really cool and fun episode. And one last thing before we get into it, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the feedback you guys are sharing with us and sharing this show with your friends and family. We've definitely picked up a lot of new members into our Access to Success community, and I want to make sure I acknowledge you guys for helping spread the word about our little project we have going on here. So thank you again. And with that, it's time to get started. We've been talking a lot about different areas of our lives and different philosophies and things, and we all have a history. We all have a story, and this story kind of shapes us and puts us in a certain place and time, but yet it shouldn't define us, but we allow it to. So today we're going to talk about why your past doesn't define you and why it doesn't define your future. So something that might have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago still affects us today, and we allow it to.
Right, so let's look at it like this. Like when I use the word roll, remove obstacles to live empowered. So to be empowered, I have to have thoughts that empower me, right? So if I look at the thoughts and the story I'm telling myself, are those stories and those thoughts empowering me? Or are they disempowering me? And if they are, why? So if we go into the energy centers of the body and we look at health and we look at healing, we realize that if we stay in the hormones of stress, we're going to cause ourselves disease and cancer. We also know that the mind, by controlling our thoughts, the mind affects the body. Thoughts matter because the mind affects matter. So if I get up and let's have a look at perception, because let's be honest, it's good to feel sorry for yourself. It just doesn't get you anything.
Yeah.
Poor me, poor me, poor me.
You get the attention.
Yeah, but it doesn't empower you. Yes, we've all been affected by environment. But is that story I'm telling myself empowering me? Or is it disempowering me?
It's a great question. It really is. If I was to reflect on some things that have held me back, a lot of it has to do with history. I don't want to be made fun of. I don't want to take a chance because I don't want to fail and be made fun of. I'm not gonna put myself on a limb because that's vulnerable. And being vulnerable is not comfortable. Not only that, but then you get the ridicule if it doesn't work out in your favor. So might as well just stay in my bubble, and I'm not going to try anything.
So we go back to pleasure and pain, right? The pain of failure, right? The pain of not achieving your goal. But do you have to walk away from that and take the risk? So the reason I look at life in chapters. And to remove myself from, say, a story that's disempowering me, I look at the chapter and I go, what can I learn from this chapter? And if I look at the chapter and felt that like I made some choices, I'm very careful now how I speak to myself, the language, the words I choose. What are the choices I made? Good and bad, because in every story we have good and bad.
Yeah.
It's not all bad. And what can I learn from this chapter, this part of my life, that I won't repeat? So if I go, well, what I did there was disempowering, I won't make that choice again. What I did there, I liked. That was empowering. Okay, so I'll do more of that. So our past doesn't define anything. This is ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is this right this second. Because the past is dead. Mm-hmm. The future is unknown. All we can do is do the best in this moment, right, to create a great future. So if I am using the past as my crutch, I'm going to be disempowered.
Right. You fall back on it.
Yes.
Because it's easy, because that's the default.
Because I want to be a victim.
Yeah. I heard once that we don't rise to the level of our potential. We default to the level of our training.
Correct.
And everybody says, you've seen somebody, oh, he has so much potential. Oh, he's got so much potential. But even then, if you don't put in the work and you don't train daily, make it a habit, then it doesn't matter what the potential is. We're going to default back to the training.
But it's potential bullshit. So say you go out and you're playing basketball and you have one game. And you're like, oh, he's got so much potential. I'm one game. Then you look at the rest of the season, you're like, yeah, one fucking game.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know. You know what I mean? So everything's subjectable.
Sure.
And nowadays, because IQ has been challenged and school systems have been challenged and entrepreneurs and people that come from nothing and a lot of the great, movers and shakers of our time, like the Bill Gates didn't finish Harvard. He went back and graduated, but he left Harvard. I mean, when you think of that, you go, you left Harvard. Most of the people would have bet against you. So how did he come up with that? He bullshitted his way. You know what I mean?
Resourcefulness.
Yeah. So I think we all have, we create a story. Now let's ask this. Let's have a look like this. So we're driving along the street. You're in your car. I'm in my car. We see an accident in front of us. And two people jump out, they get an indication, and one guy hits another guy. Cops come, we have to file a report. You're going to see it one way and I'm going to see it another.
Right.
Right? From what we focus on. Maybe I saw the guy that you didn't see the guy, pull the bird at the guy, spit out of his window. And I'm like, what a dick. And then that caused the guy to punch him. And in my brain, I'm like, well, that guy did this and this. And you're like, I didn't see that. So your story is going to be different than mine from your perception. So it's like we all have some things in the past. And if we keep firing and wiring the negative, law of attraction, like attracts like, we can't get positive. So if we want to build success and be empowered, we can look at the past and go, that's my past. Yeah. That doesn't mean you have to identify with it. I don't have to identify at 1 second that I got bad grades at school. I'm dyslexic. I was born from a small town. I never identified with that. What I identified with was like, I'm going to come to America and I want to be a success. So I never played that tape. Now, I definitely had resentments that I had to get rid of. You know what I mean? Because, it's like when I first started getting sober, I started doing resentments, and you start to look at the people you resent, and you're like, why are these people renting space in my head? So am I telling myself a positive story or a negative story?
Yeah.
And is my past getting me to where I want to be? Because if it, look, let's say you had great role models, great people around you, they told you great stories, but you take it the wrong way and you don't do any work because you blow smoke up your own ass. Well, I was told I was this. Yeah, well, this is fucking reality. You're not. And that could be that, and I hate the word millennial, and I hate the word that people say, oh, these millennials. Well, that if I was born in a time where everything was in front of me, I'd probably take it as well. Like, you can't. But then again, think of it like this, right? So everyone's giving these millennials a hard time, or these kids. But if you're smart enough to make money online, well, go make money online.
Do it.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
just because they're doing it differently than the way their parents or their grandparents did it doesn't mean it's always negative. But I hate the fact that there is labels. Doesn't matter. Male, female, black, white, Hispanic, Australian, Syrian. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
It's irrelevant. We're all human, and we're all looking for the same things at the base of it. Take color, religion, race. Take all that out of it. We want food. We want safety. We want shelter. We want camaraderie. There's basic things that we're all the same. And it's this whole thing about labeling millennials a certain thing, to me, is really discounting what the capability is.
Well, who gives a right to tell a kid, like, well, it's like you're past define your future. You're a young kid. You don't know shit. How do you know that kid doesn't know shit? How do you know that kid's not going to create the next brilliant app or the brilliant idea? All right. So he sits on the computer. Look, it's like this. There's a balance to everything. Maybe me exercising the way I exercise is insane. Maybe it is. It's a choice I'm making.
Yeah.
As long as we take responsibility for our choices. Look, here's a perfect example. Our past has an effect on us. You have two human beings. You have Viktor Frankl, that took an approach of positive psychology, being locked in a concentration camp. Then you had Hitler, that did some pretty awful stuff to people because he took what happened to him in his past, and that's what he created his future as. Right? Was Hitler wrong? Well, I wouldn't go about it like that. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, he destroyed a lot of lives and did some really fucked up shit.
Right.
But the people he convinced, in his mind, his past had scorned him so bad that that's what he believed the future was.
Yeah,
destruction.
He justified it.
He justified it,
and
he convinced a lot of people that was the right thing to do.
Right, to follow along.
So, how did he have the ability to affect so many people to do so much crazy shit and horrible stuff? Mass, like ISIS and all this terrorist crap. It's just like, are you kidding me? But their past, what they've experienced, is giving them that fuel to feel that that's okay. I don't agree with it, but that's just my opinion.
Sure.
But there's a lot of people that go out and do a lot of crazy shit I don't agree with.
Right. The key The key being that the story is the justification towards the current action.
Correct.
And when we look at it from that perspective, saying we're talking about these horrible people that do horrible things to other people, but go back and learn the lessons from the story that are actually positive, that lead you to take positive actions, and then that's the way you're going to see progress.
Well, here's the thing, right? So some people can say it's this way or that way. So it's all opinion. So in some culture, you grow up and you do certain things. So you've created a story for yourself, a cultural story. This is what I do. This is who I am. Well, why? Because this is what I've been told. This is my surroundings, right? So all our cultures have different. Like, I went to Paris. Love Paris. We're there for our baby moon. No one would get up for my wife. She was pregnant.
She was pregnant at the time.
I was like, get the fuck out of the seat. Let her sit down. You know what I mean? I don't have to speak French to get your ass out of a seat. Right? We go to a restaurant, outdoor cafe, indoor. They're smoking. I mean, like, looking at you like, put the cigarette out. They're looking at me like, why? Nowhere. There's enough information to say that secondhand smoke and the carcinogens give you cancer.
Right.
They didn't give a shit if she was pregnant. Is that wrong? That's their choice. I believe the choice they're making is harmful to my wife, but no one gave a shit. And it's 2017 it was. But you see what I'm saying? Like, to me, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Put the cigarette out.
Yeah.
Now, if you're right here in America, and you did that, someone slap you in the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
But is that wrong or right? Do you see what I'm saying?
That's subjective.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our stories are made up of what our values are. The story we tell ourselves is based on our value system and the rules we create in our minds about the values that we live by.
Yeah.
Right? Then we keep repeating those stories over and over again. But it's all subjective to what you want to achieve and your level of happiness. Now, some people, right? Because there is a balance in society that we say is acceptable. Mm-hmm. Rules change. They do. Now, is it, if the story I tell myself to make a drug, right, an opiate that I know is highly addictive, and then I go sell that as a headache medicine, and everyone gets addicted to it, and it's called OxyContin, and I tell myself the story that that's okay, and everyone in a white coat is being paid to write that script, and then afterwards we find out that it's a heavy narcotic, an opiate, and it's messing some people up, and I've told myself that story. Is that wrong or right? How do these pharmaceutical companies get away with this stuff?
Yeah.
They're telling themselves some kind of story, right?
Right.
But what does it come from? It comes from something that they're telling themselves in the past.
Yeah.
It comes from a belief that comes from the past, that that's okay. Because you know why? I'm a pharmaceutical company and I can do that.
Yeah.
But how can we watch a drug commercial and I was on the colitis meds and I'm looking at the doctor going, I have every side effect. Yeah, but you've got colitis. So why are we convinced by that? So we're manipulated.
Yeah.
Right? By our own stories and by other people's stories.
Yeah. The backstory definitely leads to a certain frame of thought.
Yes.
And an opinion.
Yes.
Of your circumstances and environment. You know, we take our environment and everything we've learned over time, and it becomes who we are today. But there's still that, like, if you allow that to be your reality, then you're going to be stuck in that mode forever.
Correct.
Or the flip side is if you take that and learn from it, and then you can alter your own story.
Well, how about this? So in our culture, death is mourned, right? In some cultures, death is celebrated.
Yeah.
That's come from the past, right? So somewhere in the past, they have set a standard and a set of cultural rules and values that says we celebrate the passing of another person because we believe the body is, perishable, but the spirit lives forever. Now in Western culture, even though we do all the yoga and we're all about the Eastern culture, we sit there. So here's a question. In the story you're telling yourself, are you mourning the person's death or are you mourning for yourself? If we know it's inevitable.
Right.
Now that's an interesting subject.
That is.
People get really offended. Right? So how long is grief supposed to last? If the past can never be rewound, it's done. Because think about it. You can never rewind the past, right?
Right.
And the only memories you have are the memories you choose to play in your mind at this present. Because it's gone. 10 minutes is gone. The tape you play, the story you tell yourself about your past 10 minutes ago, if you carry it now, then you're not with me right this second. So there's only the present. Great book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Read it. You know what I mean? If you've read it, it's a great book. So, okay, so how can my past define my present or my future? If there is no past, there's only the present. And how long am I sitting in the past? And what am I carrying in the past that keeps me locked in the past, avoiding the moment and affecting my future?
Deep, man. Those are really, really strong.
But it's serious.
Yeah, the reflective questions.
But you got to think about it.
Yeah.
So am I choosing to take the past into the present to define my future and then just keep repeating a cycle? Worst case, worst case, worst case, worst case. Or am I going to say, well, I'm going to just have an amnesia of all the bullshit, manifest the future I want by how I fire and wire my thoughts and what I envision, because really it's all subjective to perception. Very
true. And I can speak from learning experience. This isn't my own experience, but I interviewed a gentleman on the podcast a couple months ago, and his name is Kenneth Cook. He grew up in an environment that was gang infested. Violence and crime was a normal daily thing. He almost became immune to it, and he was arrested 7 times before he was 18 years old.
Wow.
And this kid decided he drew a line in the sand. He was in prison talking to the corrections officer, and the corrections officer was a former Marine. And he said that, look, man, you could either make something of yourself or this is going to be the rest of your life. And he said it was just like a light switch. Something turned on. He got his grades in order enough to go get into the military, join the Air Force. And he said he'd never even been on a plane. All of a sudden, he's sky
Amazing.
high in this amazing thing. Created an amazing life for himself. Has a wife, a couple of kids, great income. He's growing a brand online. He has all these projects going on. His backstory is that of crime, gangs, and potential and prison. His future story now looks so much brighter. How does that happen to some people and not others?
Well, it's a shift in mindset. So if I'm here right now, and if I honestly believe that in the present moment, and I have the resourcefulness right this second to have a clear intention of to do whatever I want. I mean, look at the people that have started with nothing and built empires.
Love those stories.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're not taking... I mean, there's enough people, whether it's the Oprahs of the world, that never let their past define what they want to do. I think we come up with excuses when we're not really willing to do the work. And I'm not saying it's easy. I think people... Now, here's another thing. Easy and hard is subjectable.
Right.
Because what's easy for me... Look, I would rather have faced the adversity I've faced and had to struggle because I know I'm resilient and I can figure it out. I just look at it and go, I'll figure it out. I always am solution driven. I diagnose the problem and then I just go straight to solution. And I never, even friends that I grow up with that'll send me a message like, how do you get shit done? That way better grades than me, like had better stories, you know what I mean? It's like I just get it done. I don't think.
Yeah. I've got an example here because you were talking about, this is in a different time, but you were talking about your workout.
Yep.
And the length of your runs, the fact that you can put in, what was it, a 30-minute workout where you do how many pull-ups and how many push-ups or something like that? What
I do is I try to, I go way outside of my comfort zone. So I found out I love this gymnast. If I see someone that's doing some shit that I think they look in great shape and I'm like, what's he doing? I just go and try it. So his workout was, it was a press, it could be either an incline or a flat press with whatever weight you want to use. So it was like 35 pound, but the rep range, so it started off with a press and the rep range is going to go 30 presses. Then you're going to go into straight 10 pull-ups. Then you're going to go into 30 push-ups and then back and do 10 pull-ups. That's one round. Then the rep range goes from 30, 29, 28, 27, all the way down to 20. The pull-ups stay at 10 and 10. So the whole workout is 200 pull-ups and I think it's 275 presses and 275 push-ups. The guy does it in 30 minutes. So you're on fire. And I'm not talking about swinging like a monkey, kipping. I'm talking keeping your body where you're doing them.
And so this is what I wanted to illustrate is the point being that you can do this workout. And in my own head, I'm thinking I can do about 7 to 8 pull-ups with really good form, not swinging my legs, not doing the CrossFit kind of, butterfly pull-ups, actually just pulling my whole body weight up. 7 to 8 clean. Then I got to push off a little bit, I'm trying to get up to 10. And I'm thinking 200, my inner critic comes out and my history, the fact that I've never done it before leads me to be like, I probably shouldn't try it because I've never done it before.
So you tell yourself a story.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what I do is I look at the blueprint and go, I'm going to figure out how he did it.
Right. Two different mindsets.
Yeah.
Around the same Same goal, two different mindsets. One thing that I do want to add, though, is something that I started out by not being able to pull my own body weight up. Not even the single pull-up without kicking my legs or really rocking back and forth and getting, herky-jerky pull-ups. I started with herky-jerky pull-ups till I was able to do 10 of those. And then I said, what if I tried my own body weight? Then it got down to 1 or 2.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, I got to get back up. And now it's up to 7 or 8. So,
right.
But
that's how you started. It's
yeah.
brilliant.
And it's because I just refuse to tell myself that same story. Well, I've never done it before. I've never been good at pull-ups.
I trained a kid. I met him in Brooklyn, and he came to me a little overweight, and he said he wanted to get into the fire department. And I said, why? And he goes, I want to serve and help people. I said, okay, cool. I said, meet me at the gym next week. And I went to the fire department, and I said, hey, do you guys have a workout? And they're like, do you want to join? I said, no, I'm going to coach a kid, but I want to know what you guys do. I need a reference. I'm not in the fire department. Sure. I get a reference. Guy was awesome. He said, you want to come train with us one day? I said, yeah. So I went and trained with these guys. They were great fit. They were doing a lot of carrying stuff. It was great. So I'm like, okay, I knew it, what I need to do. So what I did is I said, let's do a baseline because I don't know where you're at. And I knew that if I pushed him too hard at the start, he's not going to get the confidence because I'm all about positive reinforcement. I'm not about screaming at people. I want to get the best out of you. I'm going to figure out a way to get inside you to get the best out of you. Screaming at you all day is not going to do that. You're going to shut down, especially when you're wherever you're at. So I realized he had a lot of work to do. In the first session, he was broken. So I'm like, all right, let's not train for a week. And I said, just get in the mindset that we can do this because I don't want you to be banged up. I want you to come fresh. 6 months, I hammered this guy. Hammered him for 6 months. He got in. His body went from to he was a goddamn specimen. But the work that I had to do with him, not just the physical work, in his head, because he would never come in the right state. Because the story he would tell himself about his past, about he can't do it, about it's impossible, I would literally have to coach him out of that mindset. And the first 10 minutes of the workout would just shock him with shit to build his confidence up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always say, get small wins and remember them because that gives you a reference that you can do. So if you came to me and you go, I want to do pull-ups, well, I would say, well, I'm going to train you to do 100. And you're like, that you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. You're going to put the clock on for 10 minutes and do 2 every minute. You're like, well, I might just do that. And you're going to just do 2. And you're going to do 2 every minute. Then what's going to happen is you're going to get the confidence going, oh shit, I did 2 every minute for 10 minutes. So now, while you're sore the next day, I'm going to make you do the same workout. So you can do it back to back. And then you're going to know that you can do those, right? And you're going to struggle through, and then I'm going to make you do 3. And you're going to sit at 3 for 10 minutes every minute for a week, 2 weeks. And then what's going to happen is your mind is going to remember. It's movement, momentum. Then all of a sudden you're going to go to 4 every minute. Then you'll just sit at 5. Just sit at 5. And I won't adjust the time. And then we're going to go from 10 minutes to 12 minutes. Because if you can do 10, you can do 12. Mm-hmm. And then 12 goes to 15. And then 15 goes to 30. See what I'm saying? And you build slowly. All of a sudden, you're doing 100 pull-ups. And it's building. But most people don't have the patience and persistence and the perseverance to say, I'm just going to get the 3 or 4. And here's another thing how it works. When my appendix burst, I could not work out for 4 months. I couldn't do a pull-up. I couldn't do a squat. I lost 50 pounds.
Wow. I
started as day 1. I had to rebuild my whole body. And now 300 pull-ups in an hour is like...
That's so insane.
I can do a couple 100 pull-ups holding the baby. And he's 20-something pounds.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe we tell ourselves a story. I believe we've got to remove the stuff that disempowers us. I think we've got to do the things that empower us and rewrite our story by the choices we make in the moment and forget culture, forget everything, have a set of values that we can live by, be honest, show up, and just be willing to do the work.
100%. Good shit, man.
All right, brother.
All right, you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you who have hit me up and hit up Mike D to tell us what you're getting from this podcast and what you're learning from it and what you're applying into your lives. If you know someone who can use a boost in their life or just think they'll enjoy the show, share it with them. You might be giving them a gift at the right time in their lives. Now, I promised you guys a story about my past and that had a negative impact on me or maybe a positive one. I don't know. I don't know how it impacted me, but basically it was a pretty big thing when it was happening. And this story, I'll share it openly. I'm not ashamed of it, even though my mentality around it was kind of silly at the time and even going forward. I was like 7 or 8 years old, so it's quite some time ago. But at the time, I didn't really understand how to process it, so here goes. Now, as some of you know, I wasn't born here in the States. I was born in Syria. My family immigrated here in the late 80s, and needless to say, it was a pretty big culture shock. Initially, I had a rough time fitting in, and I had a weird name, and compare that to like Michael or John or Brian or something. It's like you got Saeed. Anyway, on top of that, I knew about 20 words in English, hi, bye, yes, no, sorry, maybe, something like that. But making friends was hard, so there was some like verbal bullying. I never really got beat up or anything, and I never had my lunch money stolen, but mainly because my mom used to pack my lunch. And that's actually the source of the trauma. So while the other kids were eating their PB&J sandwiches, they're cut diagonally on a bed of fluffy Wonder Bread, I was eating hummus and lebne and za'atar sandwiches, which were made with pita bread. And the other kids would just let me have it. And it may not seem like a big deal today where you could find hummus at every grocery store and even at Starbucks, but we're talking like 1989 when the food pyramid was a thing, right? So anyway, between the hummus and the za'atar, which if you don't know what that is, it's one of the most delicious mixture of herbs you've ever tasted in your life. But it's brown and it's grainy and it literally looks like dirt. So the kids in my class, being kids, would walk by me and yell like, ha ha, Saeed's eating dirt. And like the next day they would mock me like, hey, did your mom pack another dirt sandwich? That kind of stuff. So like I said, it wasn't like physical bullying, but it was definitely verbal. And all I wanted to do was just be like the other kids. I didn't want to be that weird kid. I just wished my mom would just pack me like a PB&J sandwich or Lunchables, which, by the way, was all the craze back then because, fun fact, Lunchables was invented in 1988. So by 1989, 1990, like all the kids were bringing Lunchables to school and it was just kind of the cool thing. Anyway, that's all I wanted from my mom. And she had the intent on giving me more nutritious food rather than just something store-bought. And she refused to pack me those kinds of lunches. She continued to pack me the foods that kept me in the category of being that weird kid who eats weird food. Now, fast forward to today, I have so much pride in my ethnicity and my people's food that I still get excited when I hear people tell me that they love hummus. And like, I'm craving za'atar right now just talking about it. So what if it looks like dirt? It's friggin' delicious. But for years, I was ashamed of my food, my culture, my parents. I would often actually I would hide from the other kids and eat my food without taking it out of like the brown paper bag, like kind of like how some homeless people drink their liquor in public. They put a brown paper bag around it. So I had a hard time and my shame made me feel inadequate. And I thought all the other kids were just so cool. And if I could just be like them, then I'd be popular and my life would be more enjoyable. And I carried this idea well into my teens and even in my 20s, even as an adult. All this time, I just wanted to be like other people. I didn't really have the confidence to be myself. I would try to emulate the other kids in school. I'd try to talk like them and dress like them and hang out wherever they were hanging out. And that's part of the reason, actually, why you don't hear an accent when I speak. So when I came here, I had a heavy accent, but I wanted to lose the accent so bad just to fit in that I started imitating the way the other kids spoke in my school. So that's kind of how I lost my accent over time. Now, what helped me get through all of this was I grew up on a street where there were other Middle Eastern families who also had kids right around my age. And at the very least, we had our culture in common. each of us was like a year or two apart, but it helped in a lot of ways because I started to get to know them and they got to know me. And it was kind of nice having something to look forward to after school. But having them around really helped me adjust to my new life and my new environment. And although it didn't shake the whole trying to be like others mentality, at least I had some friends to confide in. Now, over time, I started seeing the popularity of Middle Eastern food, and I refuse to call it Mediterranean food. Anyway, people everywhere were starting to love Middle Eastern food, and I would even have people ask me about it and ask me about my culture, and it helped me be more confident in who I am. And just recently, I heard a quote that made my entire head explode. And I wish I had heard this when I was a kid because I think it would have changed my whole perception of what I saw in myself and what I saw around me. So this quote is from Tim Grover, and it goes, "We spend our whole lives trying to fit in, yet we admire those who stand out." And I'll leave you with that, my friends. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't hide who you really are, because odds are you have something that other people will admire. So go grab some hummus or za'atar, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next time on the Access to Success podcast.